Road to Austin.
Thoughts about the road to Austin.
Stephen asked us to do this show, and when we found out, you know, how many people were going to be there, it was quite astounding. I remember being surprised and feeling a little bit nervous because I never had played in front of an audience that large.
One of the greatest things about Bruton was the fact that he had a power to bring people together from different circles.
And it didn't matter how much money or how big the star was. Everybody was on the same level, and we were all treated the same.
Everyone was a star on that show, all day long.
That is the world that Stephen built, that communal. There are no me and you, us and them. It's just we're all musicians and everybody can have a good time, make amazing music, and be kind and be good to one another. And it just was magical.
That's Stephen. He's bringing his family into his house. That was his house that day. And I was glad I was invited.
Switching on a dime, going from, you know, from Eric Johnson to Kris Kristofferson to Bonnie Raitt. We had string sections with Tosca, and fortunate that we had the nucleus of Stephen's band, essentially, you know, Brannen Temple on drums, Yoggie Musgrove on bass, and Stephen.
The idea of juggling and partnering up and piecing together that many artists was daunting, to say the least, occasionally comical.
When we went up to rehearse the first few songs, I was scared to death. I was paralyzed because I turned around and there's, you know, and there's Miss Raitt, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh man, I'm not going to play guitar in front of this gal. She's going to think I'm horrible. And she was so sweet, and she turned around and says to me, says, do you mind if I hop up there and play a solo on that? And I was like, only if you do it 7 times around.
I'd never sung with Bonnie. You know, I toured with her for 4 or 5 years, but I wasn't singing much then. And she was willing to play along with me and sing one of my songs. And that was such a buzz. She was, you know, she's so much fun. Gotta love Bonnie.
Standing backstage about to go on, you could feel just a lot of energy in the crowd, a huge crowd, just kicking it, you know, just kicking it right every beat. Just a good feeling on stage.
Everybody was rooting for one another. You come off stage and everybody would clap for you. I mean, everybody backstage, from Bonnie Raitt to you know, Carolyn Wonderland, to just people clapping and rooting for one another as opposed to being in competition.
Those people, especially Kris and Bonnie, they were so happy to be there performing, but also so happy to be there for Stephen in the circumstance that he was in. And it did lift his spirits incredibly.
Stephen came out of treatment 1 week prior to the beginning of rehearsals. And I just remember standing there looking at him going, you know, Stephen, you don't have to do this show. And Stephen looked at me and he said, no, Gary, you don't understand. I have to do this show. This is what pulled me through treatment. And he said, I'll be ready.
I walked into rehearsal and he started walking forward me and he started crying. And I started crying. And we walked off in another room and just kind of held each other for a minute. We didn't really say anything. There wasn't really a hell of a lot to say. I mean, we knew what was going on.
We proved that the power of music and the power of friendship is a healing power, because he really looked a lot better when he hit the stage than he did when he hit the rehearsal.
No matter how proficient or wonderful anyone was on their musical instruments that night, everybody lit up when you saw Stephen. I mean, that was the thing, as the driving force behind it all. But it wasn't just, thanks for the opportunity, you know, let me play music in front of these people. It was, thanks for the opportunity of letting me be your friend, you know. He's an amazing cat.
When I think of him, I think mainly that he was a good songwriter,
you know, and I think that's the most important legacy that he left.
As a songwriter, I've learned so much from Stephen. You know, phrasing, you know, the storytelling.
He had that ability of really telling a story and also having it have poetry infused with it, so it wasn't just the facts.
I've never heard the word fixing in a song until Stephen Bruton. You know, I'm gonna make that call, you know. Fixing the fall, make that call. Fixing, this is, I mean, it's awesome.
It's cliche to say it's amazing, but it's poignant, it's sacred, it's profane, it's funny as hell.
I learned so much about songwriting from writing songs with Stephen. Stephen could call you on a mediocre or a lame lyric in such a way that you would know that you were being called on it, but you wouldn't feel bad about it. You know, I miss doing that. I really miss doing that. I miss him. I miss all those things.
Stephen Bruton, the guitar player. Oh my God.
He was really an incredible guitar player, but he would give it up for the song.
So many guitar players are consumed with the solo and when do I get to solo and how can I shine, whereas Stephen was really consumed with the art of rhythm guitar playing and how do I support the song the best.
There's a lot of people that have the ability to play intricate technical guitar, but really what separates people that are great from people that are incredibly great is not technical ability, but it's taste and it's sophistication, and that's what he had.
It didn't matter if it was his song or somebody else's song. He would always play like the most appropriate thing, and it's not appropriate is such a lame word for it. He would play the most spiritually in tune, revel in the vibratory waves of external unity thing. You know, he was there. And I always thought it was cool too because it wouldn't be flashy. There wouldn't be like a million notes a second. It would be the 3 right notes that you needed to hear to either break your heart or to make you dance or to piss you off.
If it were up to me, he'd have been the guitarist on every record I made because he had a feeling for my music unlike anybody else.
Stephen Bruton as a producer was a natural and was a natural leader.
Stephen in the studio was funny. He had a joke about being a producer. It's like the artist going, okay, well, they finished the take, and well, how was that? I mean, what do you think? I don't know, what do you think?
One of the things he would tell me, as he's told other people, is that you always get the right guy for the job. And that's how he worked. He would find the right guy for the right job. And the road to Austin was no exception to that.
You tend to be more open with someone that you trust and you're close to. And we were all close to and trusted Stephen.
He was a dear friend. And I mean, to say that I miss him is an understatement.
I can say without a shadow of a doubt, I have not spent one day where I didn't think about him since his passing. That's incredible. I have no idea how he's still in me. He's still around me in some level.
I've never thought of Stephen as being gone. I mean, I think I just always think of him as being around and smiling and making some kind of joke about, everything.
There are times when he's real strong, especially in the room at Saxon when we're playing. Sometimes, but that's it too. And about the loved ones, you think of them and there they are for you.
I don't want to make him cringe, up there in heaven, but he was well loved, And
I learned an awful lot about making music from him. But more than anything else, he he was just a good friend, somebody you could always count on.
He never had a bad word to say about anybody in my book, and he just flowed with everybody around him.
Just like in his songwriting, he was a very hopeful man. You know, he saw the great things in people that some of us have written off. And I think that that was a beautiful piece of his humanity, that he could walk his way into a story and show you your part in that, you know, where you are in the good guy and in the bad guy in the story. He had a way of seeing everybody, and I think that's beautiful. Not to mention, he'd flash those eyes at you and you'd think, that man could get out of so much trouble. He's been doing that since he was 5.
I can't tell you how terribly I miss him. But at the same time, he created such a great life. He lived such a good life and lived it well. Not always perfect, but well, you know. And even in the final days, he was, you know, he was killing life.
I talked to Stephen, you know, maybe 4 days before, you know, he passed, and he was still talking about the next record.
One of the last things I got to say to him was, well, just book some gigs and we'll keep on going. And I said, I think you get up off your deathbed to go play a gig. And he laughed and said, yeah.
Is there anything that I would say to Stephen? I said everything I needed to say. You know, I believe that he knew my love and my loyalty and my respect and my thankfulness.
I think if I could tell him now, I would thank him.
I don't know what I would say to him. He knows how I felt about him. And anything that I could say more would be repeating myself.
I don't think he realizes how many people loved him and how many people really miss him.
I really miss my Uncle Stephen and, you know, him being there and, you know, his tickles, which, man, I was tickled. And, you know, just his sense of humor and, you know, I really wish he could be here with us now. And, you know, we all send good thoughts to him and we miss him.
I don't think I've known anyone who was so good at what he did, but was also one of the funniest human beings on the planet, and very human, and I'm going to miss Stephen for the rest of my life. He added so much to mine.
He meant the world to me. Stephen, while he was alive and battling cancer, he and I talked about this extensively, that we have to do something to help people who might end up in the same situation as him. And this is my attempt to honor Stephen.
Welcome to the Stephen Bruton Wellness Initiative. I know Stephen would be proud that this was being done in his name.
The Stephen Bruton Wellness Initiative is something that kind of grew out of Stephen's life and the way that he lived his life, and had a lot to do with giving.
What it's going to concentrate and deal with is people that are well and want to stay well. It will be so much more effective than waiting till people get sick or having to, on the back end, try to treat people, which costs so much more money and is so much harder to find a cure or to stop. So the idea is for us to try to have little road signs and markers that will let us know, you know, and to keep us stay on track with wellness. So I think this program is right on the target as far as how we should conduct our health and live in health and avoid as much as possible any kind of severe sickness.
Man, the Stephen Bruton Wellness Initiative, that's a beautiful thing. It's a mouthful, but you should say it. Stephen Bruton Wellness Initiative.